our work was to bring enemy aircraft down.
I had finished a part of it, that is the basic military training. So I still had the flight training to do.
I joined Kenya Air Force 24th December 1980.
So our future was bright.
At 3:30 a.m. on the 1st of August 1982, a group of junior Air Force soldiers, mainly from Isli and Nanyuki Air Base, attempted to overthrow the government of then-President Daniel Toroitich Arap Moi. The servicemen took over the public broadcaster, Voice of Kenya, forcing Leonard Mambo Mbotela to announce that the government had been taken over by the Kenya Air Force. They wreaked havoc on the streets of Nairobi and even tried to bomb State House and the General Service Unit.
Yale yaliyotokea leo asubuhi kwa muda mfupi iliyoletea wananchi wasiwasi mwingi.
The plot was muted by the army wing of the Kenya Armed Forces, loyal to the government.
I was still in my house. I didn't know what was happening. I just handed over the radio that the government is in the hands of the armed forces, that the police were to remain in their stations, no movement from one state to the other. Then I wondered, how could something of that nature and magnitude happen without my knowledge, being an instructor, because all of them had to pass through me.
I met with Titus Njiru Masharia and 8 others at the Independent Medical Legal Unit, where they are undergoing post-trauma counseling. Njiru says after getting wind of the foiled coup, he moved back to the Isli Air Base in accordance with the military standing orders.
That is where we are all naked, stripped naked. Prison funds were brought from committee. We were made to go inside, and the route in between from here to a vehicle that was there, that looked a very long distance. There was too much beating, whips, bats, going on foot, on knees, on your own knees. It was a difficulty on a tarmac road. We went to the vehicle. Before we get to the vehicle, you are bleeding. You are beat. They had made 2 lines. We had to pass in between.
32 years after the coup attempt, and questions on how and why the coup was allowed to take place and what led to mass dismissals has remained a subject of much debate and a conspiracy of sorts.
We did go to the armory and we found some commissioned officers. So they gave us some orders. They said there's some chaos which has erupted in town. People are looting. So we want you people to go and make sure there's no looting in town. And we were dropped in town. Come on. We found a lot of soldiers loitering around, but we just thought they were also trying to make sure nobody is stealing. Almost towards noon, some army officers who were also loitering, we had seen them earlier on, came and told us, no, you Air Force guys, surrender your weapons. We did surrender. Upon surrendering, they stripped us. They told us to strip. Then they took us to VOK because we were not very far from there. So upon taking us there, we found the place had been a battlefield. There were a lot of blood around that area. So we were told by one of the officers there, sit down here. We sat next to the door. I later learned this one was General Mohammed. He asked us what is up. We told him we don't know ourselves what is up. So later on, towards the evening, they took us on a Land Rover all the way to Langata.
The first of all was to capture the place. And when I captured it, when cleared everything, that's the time I now communicated back to the headquarters.
We had information, not confirmed information.
All of those people were supposed to know, they knew. Even the MIC and intelligence, even the special branch, they knew of it. So these people, they used to have done something to quench this thing before it comes up. But because they had their personal interest, they left this thing to go all the way until it came out. And when it came out, the way it was handled, it was not proper.
After crushing the coup attempt, the Kenya Army began arresting suspects.
Kuja hapa kwa barabara, mwalimu. Kuja. Soka mbele. Kamara. Soka. Soka.
Now, this group of former Air Force servicemen say, yes, there was a coup attempt on the 1st of August, 1982. And yes, the plotters and executors were members of the Kenya Air Force. But they maintain that not every person who was arrested, detained and jailed actually participated in the planning and execution of the abortive coup.
The army mishandled the whole situation. It was improperly mishandled, terribly mishandled. Because like I say, I had been in the force for quite a time. There was another attempt around 71. There was another one somewhere around 70 something. They were properly handled. Only the concerned were arrested, taken to court, and suffered. That is how Ndoro left. That is how Lieutenant Omondi left. That is how Major Mwanzia left. They should have followed the same thing. They should have arrested the few people who want to cause the trouble.
I was shocked because it's something I didn't know. I had no knowledge of such a thing.
But here you were picked up.
We dressed up and started walking to the base. I reached the base at around 8 a.m. And reaching the gate, we were ordered there by the others who are commanding that we have to be armed. So we ran up to the armory and we were given guns. So after that, we stayed in the base. I was in fact just in the base. I didn't go out with the gun that I took from the armory. And reaching about 4 p.m., Kenya Army soldiers came and overran the base. And all Air Force soldiers who were there, we peacefully surrendered. And there we were put under arrest in the base. So that's where I would say our problem started.
This group of former servicemen say officers who reported back to the camp as the law requires were led by the army to a large supply store and locked up. They were held at the Eastleigh Air Base and interrogated for 3 days, during which they would be forced to kneel and lie on the tarmac runway, sometimes during torrential rain.
There was serious shooting in the camp. There were a lot of army people now overrunning the camp. So I decided to stay in the tunnel for the night. That evening, there was very serious rainfall. Then at 6 o'clock, I left my hideout. Immediately, I left my hideout just next to the fire station. There was a platoon of army soldiers, all in the ready with their guns. And so when I first approached, they were surprised because they were saying there was no live person in that place. So their commander told them to take cover while aiming at me. Then I was given orders to stop. So I stopped and I was asked to raise my hands up, and I did. So then after, the next order was, take off all your clothes, throw them 3 yards away from you, then walk 3 steps backwards. So I did.
They take your clothes, you remain with your innerwear. As a grown-up, you remain with the innerwear.
As he left me, he handed me over to the junior guys. And those guys started working on me. They really beat me silly. Then they forced me now to walk on my knees on a tarmac road for about 500 yards. After that, I was asked to carry my clothes, carry my shoes, and run as they beat me for about 1 kilometer. When I reached there, they just said, "Lala chini, lala chini." And you know, there was a very tall grass on a very wet Monday morning at 6. Now that was not very comfortable when you're bare-chested.
On the 4th day, they were taken to Committee Maximum Prison, where Okeo and others were further detained for 6 months.
But before we reached committee, it was dusk, and one of the soldiers who had been ordered, if those people in the lorry lift their heads, just shoot them. Do not let them leave. So we reached somewhere, and I believe that place could have been Roysambu. But it was at night, I couldn't really know the place clearly, quite well. Then he told us, "Gentlemen, I want to have mercy on you. Just lift up your heads from wherever you are in the lorry seated." We lifted our heads. He showed us behind us. We could see the city, or the lights lighting. Then he said, "This is your last time to see those lights. That's why I just wanted to have some favor." So some of the people in the vehicle, they got very annoyed because most of them they were Kenya Air Force officers. They told him, "But why are you wasting time? You should have killed us. You are torturing us for nothing, and you have really wasted our time and beaten us. Why don't you just kill us so that this could be the end?"
At committee, I was naked, no clothes, no water. For 3 days, I took no food, I took no water for 3 days, and I was naked. 3 days, no food, no water, no clothes. Then it's the 4th day, they brought some rags.
They would later be transferred to Naivasha Maximum Prison to face even tougher interrogations and more torture. Apollo Amieno was just 2 years into the Kenya Air Force as a private officer, a job he loved.
My real problem and why I was taken for further interrogation is that I myself, I come from Nyakach. And the coup leader happened to come from Nyakach also. And I tried to explain to them, and they said, "You are cheating us. Since this guy is coming from your village, you're not telling the truth. You must have known." By the time I was starting narrating the story where I was on 31st and the 1st, they said, "Okay, this man is from Kisumu. Take him to Lake Victoria to fish." Now, Lake Victoria, you are wondering, in prison, where is the lake? There is a place, a room, designed, painted black with lights. By the time we reached the door, I saw something written on the door. No food, no clothes, no blanket. So, which means I have to be naked.
At Naivasha Maximum Prison, Apollo says they were grilled individually by interrogators who aimed at breaking their spirit and make them confess to being party to the coup. He says many succumbed.
So when I went to this water was dirty. there was a lot of feces floating on top of this water. And it was smelly. And you know, this cell has been closed. This guy closed it and they went away. So the next day they didn't remove me, the second day, the third day. And the fourth day, it was taking toll on me. And I was seeing I might even die in this water, because I had been told about 2 or 3 guys had died in that water. So the fourth day, I called the warden through a summon hall. I told him, I'm going to confess. I'm going to sign the statement. So when he got that information, he ran back to the interrogator and they authorized so that I can be removed from water. So when you're removed from water, you're not taken straight to interrogation. You're taken to bask in the sun for a while, because I could not walk. My legs had started swelling. So I was taken to bask in the sun for a while so that I could get strength, and I was given some porridge. During this time I'm staying in water, I was not being given food, not water. After about 2 hours, they took me to the interrogation room. So when they took me there again, what I wanted was a little relief from this water, so that I gain strength, and even if they bring me back, maybe I'll come a fresh guy again. So exactly that's what happened. When I went there, I told them I didn't say I'm going to sign here. I didn't say I've confessed. Me, I didn't know anything about the coup.
He was then taken back to his cell, and the next time around, he broke.
And I stayed in that water, and on the 6th day, I succumbed. I was now getting very tired. I went and stood and supported myself in a corner. And I don't know what happened, because I found myself, and I had vowed on the first day that I'm not going to sleep in this water. I won't sit in this water. But that night, I found myself seated completely in that water and submerged up to here. You know, when I stood up, the first thing, as a man, I look at my private part. And the whole of this was white. And when I look at my private part, I couldn't find it. It had gone, because that water is very cold. It had gone inside and almost disappeared. And then I said, oh, sitakufa patena. So I asked the warden, and he asked me, are you sure you want to go and confess? I said, yes. And he told me, usipochunga, you'll die here. Because we have removed people who had died in this water, and you're going to die.
He had decided to give in, but upon reaching the interrogation room, he spotted a disturbing article in the Sunday Nation newspaper.
I couldn't read it properly, but I could see the headline was reading Odinga in Kampala. And a sub-headline, there's a guy called Peter Sapalan. This guy was given 22 years. So I realized that when I came here the first day, these guys mentioned this guy, the interrogator. They told us, why should you be suffering here? And people like Sapalan were here, and they've gone back to the barracks. They're working, wanakula mchele, wanakula chakula mzuri, nyinyi mnaumia hapa. So I saw Peter Sapalan has been given 22 years. And I said, hey, so these people are just sitting us here. They want you to confess to sign this statement. And when you sign this statement, you're going to give it long-term jail terms. So that has been in my mind throughout, because I saw the Nation newspaper. When I was taken back to the cell, I was not allowed to be put together with the rest of the guys. I was supposed to be segregated.
The interrogators will entice the detainees with basic necessities which they longed for, convincing them under duress to sign a document.
Let me explain it to you. This is your payback time. And let me tell you that you are going to prison, whether you like it or not. So the choice is yours. You either choose to see your family alive, and they were showing me a picture of my wife and my small child. My child was only 3 months old. They're saying, if you want to see them alive, then you must cooperate with the government. And you are going to jail. And you must admit, you must do what we are going to tell you to do. Then I made a mistake of asking, and what is it that you'd like me to do? That is when now they settled on me with beatings.
It is from this cell that I got injuries in my collarbone and my shoulder and my temple. And once I sustained those injuries through their own actions, they took me back to the interrogator and asked me, to sign and go and plead guilty. If I told them I need medical attention, why should I sign this thing and I'm sick? And they said, no, if you want treatment, you have to plead guilty. And that's exactly what I did, because one of the bones had lodged itself inside my left side of the collar, and I kept on feeling pain, and I was fearing that it could be getting a puncture into the lung.
A signature that will send them to the martial court in Langata and eventually to jail.
He only wanted me to plead guilty, which I did. Within a few minutes, they had already convicted me 12 years. And I thought now they'll take me to hospital. They never did it.
Apollo managed to pass the message to his colleagues not to sign.
And the only way that I could give them information was we were given Bibles and a hymnal book. I was not allowed to talk to them, and they were not allowed to talk to me. The best way I could give them information was to read this Bible aloud or to sing these songs aloud. And whatever I was singing was not what was written in this book. I was giving these people information. The mistake they did is they kept quiet.
Apollo and others who refused to sign and confess were driven to Kamiti Medium Security Prison for a night. They were then taken to Kahawa Barracks and released.
We didn't enter inside, but somewhere outside, where we were taught to look for anything which we can put onto our bodies. And they removed the clothes which we had. And then from there I was given a fare of 200 shillings and told not dear even a single day, just to be seen around any military camp.
But a bitter and even harder life awaited them outside the prison walls. They were branded rebels and blacklisted as unemployable. Since then, they have never found a formal job.
You lost a job, your wife goes away, and you see that somebody else is now marrying your wife. How do you find it? It was very sad. I've had to struggle with my 3 boys without the wife. She's staying with somebody in Nakuru. What do? You don't have a job. You cannot maintain.
In other ones, after prison, our imprisonment continued with us at home.
They have tagged some people to follow you up wherever you go. You go and get a job here. Somebody else will come with a counter recommendation before your new bosses.
Whatever you had with somebody, if you actually say the word you want it too, it disconnects you with that person, and that person actually wants to distance himself from you. It has been very hard for me, even from my old friends or some members of my family. They distanced themselves from me because they said that I spoiled my job.
Titus Njiru has had to undergo surgery to remove a growth from his private parts. The problem, he says, began while in detention.
Today, you see I'm walking normally. This is a cloth I was never able to wear because of the size of the problem.
Their service certificates had indicated that they were relieved of their duties by the 82 Air Force on the 1st of August, even before 82 Air Force had been formed. Kenya Air Force was changed to 82 Air Force after the coup attempt. They say the whole thing appeared as a conspiracy of some sort.
When I was enlisted on 24th December 1980, I was given the service number of 025202. And this 10.145 is by the 82 Air Force. The day they wrote the certificate was 15th March. I was in prison. I was released on 22nd March 1983. And we were supposed to, what I had by the prison warders by the time we were being released, we were supposed to go back to work. But our tormentors, the army guys, have already taken our place. So having suffered in the prison for 8 months, they say it's not possible to go and join the others because you can fight.
Okay, here.
Apollo's certificate of service indicates he worked for both Kenya Air Force and the 82 Air Force. Yet, the 82 Air Force was formed when he was in prison.
For 32 years now, these former Air Force servicemen say they have been facing total isolation from the government and Kenyans at large, including their very own families and relatives. Now, they are calling on Kenyans to paint a new picture about them.
Not all of the people who worked in the Kenya Air Force actually masterminded the coup. A lot of us were circumstantial victims, and I personally was within that unfortunate group of very young people who were hoping to build a career as airmen and take up trades and train to the highest levels. I lost that opportunity. But I am not a criminal. That is the point I want to make. And therefore, given a chance, like any other Kenyan, I would contribute very positively to this country.
I'm happy to say that none of us since prison life, none of us has been involved in any criminal activity.
I have forgiven those people who wronged me. I have called it bygone. I am now in a new page to start a life. I have also not closed the doors. If anybody feels he needs me, he's welcome. We can talk and go forward. I don't carry any burden with me.
Enoch Sikoli, NTV.